Well, hi there. You're watching and or listening to Podcast is Broken, a podcast that comes out weekly where we try to make Canadian politics and news funner. I'm Brittlestar.
I'm Steve Boots, and he says that looking directly at me every time.
I'm Lisa, and it's the funner rest is stir.
That was good.
We're gonna
I
make
liked
it.
it when
We're
you
just
did
gonna.
that. You did that last week, and it was nice. It was, convivial. Is that the word?
Convivial.
We're also doing this on
I
camera.
was.
There's really no way for you not to be staring at me.
That's true. Exactly. You guys, I listened to last week's podcast, and we really rambled a lot at the beginning. But let's do a quick ramble, because I think it's nice to catch up, because we don't get a chance to properly chat in between shows, because we are horrendously ill-prepared for every show. So how are you guys? What's new? What's going on with you guys?
I just want to address something, if I may take it off the top. I've heard from the man that there's a lot of comments that come forward.
Don't make it worse.
Well, I'm just saying.
Oh, now I'm talking over you. Damn it, I can't win.
Fuck off. It's my turn.
Sorry.
Settle down, patriarchy.
That's right. Burn it down. So the man informed me that there are a lot of people out there that are, we want more Lisa. Like, we love Lisa. Shut up, the other two. We don't really like them. So that's my interpretation of it, and I'm going to go with it. We did a little adjustment today, so I brought my microphone up so I can boom over the boys. And I've made the request that they allow me to speak for more than the 7.5 minutes that originally I was given per show. We're in negotiations. I'm hopeful. But anyway, thank you everybody for caring about me. I am fine. I am fine. I'll do my best.
You've come a long way,
right?
baby.
We'll bump it up to 8 next week.
Oh, see?
Well, Steve, shut up, man. We'll see how this goes this week. Well, that's good. I'm glad we addressed that, because it is important to make sure that we can all. And there's three of us, and I think the three of us have raging egos. So I think it's hard sometimes to find a nice divide.
Well,
split this pie into thirds.
And we're Canadian, and so we try to be polite. We do a lot of I'm sorry's, right, when we're interjecting. So, but fuck it, fuck the patriarchy. I'm just going to talk when I want.
Well, yeah, and people who spend all their time on camera are known for their humility.
Right? Yes.
That's exactly.
Don't. Not about me. Never.
Shy and demure that we are. Yes. Anyway,
I'm just glad that we have really earned the E explicit badge on our podcast and Apple Podcasts now. That's good. So that's nice.
But I don't feel like we've I know what you're pointing at me, but I haven't sworn nearly as much on the show as I have I know. As I have in my videos, which is sometimes depending on the topic is every second word, but. But yeah,
you see, I'm as a grade school teacher, I kind of try to avoid swearing, so I always wind up using old timey words to avoid swearing.
Poopy, it's poopy.
Be like, they're up to some shenanigans.
But I got to tell you, in the rare moments when you do, it's like.
It's a treat.
Dad swore.
I can't wait. Until late this summer. It's just going to be just F-bombs left and right. It's going to be amazing.
Steve 2.0.
What a great season to look forward to.
Oh, it's going to be, Steve Uncensored. Do you remember those 90s DVDs that had the big red thing across the front that was uncensored version?
Yes.
Girls.
Yes.
Are you talking about Girls Gone
No,
Wild?
I'm talking about half-baked.
Owen's dying right now.
I was about 12, so you and I had very different experiences of the 90s.
Well, when you were 12, I was 22.
Some of us weren't allowed in the section of the video store where it had the beads hanging down across the door.
The velvet curtain. That was awesome, yeah.
I was thinking
girls,
Jackass, but okay.
Yeah, well.
Oh, okay.
But speaking of Girls Gone Wild, Stuart's video of the dancing, your 80s dancing with your little Chippendales tie.
Did you like
Man's
that?
got the moves.
Right?
Yeah,
oh my God. Yeah.
That was, there you go. That was a little, Gregor and I, my other son Gregor and I filmed that. And Owen was at just off frame with props, so we could do an easy cut.
Nice.
So it was good.
It was awesome.
Fantastic.
It was awesome.
Yes,
it's a horror.
I think any excuse I can get to take my shirt off or mostly off, I'm in all the way.
Well, you gotta
all the way.
You gotta keep a little thing. There's a mystery there that needs to happen. Now, I'm not talking
like
about the
how
little
you-
thing.
Yeah, the
sorry.
little hand
But
wigglies.
no, because if you saw the video, the shirt is in a V. So I'm just saying. Anyway,
That's how shirts work.
okay.
Okay, we got to move on.
Anyway,
God,
people can,
shirts
people
are
gonna be
only
like, "Why-"
V-necks. Anything else is something else.
Oh my god!
It's a button-up shirt, Steve. That's how they work.
But the way that it was opened was like a 70s lapel, and it was in a V.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
deep V cut. I'm just saying. Anyway,
Revealing my disco
aren't you
pelt.
guys glad
The
I'm
deeper
talking
the V,
a lot
the
today?
better. We all know the rules.
Come on,
Oh,
man.
okay, wait. I took that in a whole other
Just
way.
start swearing. That'd be better.
I was genuinely not making a dirty joke there, you people.
Okay. all
Okay,
right,
Jason,
all right,
Kenny,
all right.
Chow and Maine, whatever.
Oh.
I'm just far more innocent than you two foul people. My goodness.
no, no,
don't
you
make
pretend.
us bring up the Batmobile.
Get your minds out of the
Because-
gutters. I was genuinely talking.
and-
Have you seen the like runway model stuff with like the V's that go down to their belly button?
Yes.
It's like that's not even a
Don't-
shirt.
Yes. Now you're complaining about the deeper the V? I thought you were all happy about the
You like the deep V.
There's no recovering
This has
from this
gone
one.
horribly awful. Can we please talk about something wholesome? Like perhaps let's talk about some sort of like youth event.
Oh, dear
some
God,
innocent
no.
youth event. Someone want to talk about that? Bring up a nice youth event.
Welcome to Alberta, where we have conservative constituency offices. Sorry, I'm going to point it out for Lacombe-Ponoka, home of my favorite political person, Jennifer Johnson. Fuck you, Jennifer Johnson. So they decided. I know they decided that it would be a good idea to put on a dance and social aimed at youth, aged 14 to 25. Now, I'm not great at math. I will admit that. Youth, 14 to 25. Now, I know sometimes in smaller towns, we don't experience life as quickly as maybe in bigger cities.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure a
yeah.
25-year-old is not a youth.
Shallower pool.
Yeah,
maybe,
that
but
feels
I don't know if it's that shallow.
not right.
No.
And Kay, correct me if I'm wrong. Jennifer Johnson's the one who's now sitting independent, right?
Yes. She said some bad things. Someone recorded her saying some not so nice things about trans youth in her community in terms of test scoring in schools, that it didn't matter how well they were how well the school was testing. If trans students were helping them get there, it was like poop and cookies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she got elected,
Awful.
mind you, and has been sitting as an independent off to the side. But her constituency office, rah, 14 to 25.
So I just want to clarify for people listening that this is a poster that was for a youth dance, and it said, "Hey kids, come and have a good time. Youth's welcome, 14 to 25." And it was put on by who? Who
The
was putting it on again?
UCP constituency office for Lacombe-Ponoka.
Did you see what that one RCMP sergeant has now deleted the tweet about?
I did. I did. I mean, thank goodness somebody in some sort of position of authority was
Right?
looking at it and saying,
I'm a little perplexed at the decision to delete it, but beyond that, like he basically said,
Yeah.
like, hey, this is a super bad idea. Don't do this, whatever you do.
Because it achieved what it needed to achieve, right? You have law enforcement basically, off duty saying this is predatory in nature, right? Like the optics are predatory in nature. So maybe ixnay, but it was canceled. They put out the cancellation of it, and they put the banner. We're talking about red banners. Red banner event canceled. Ironically, right over the 14 to 20.
Total coincidence that it wound up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
age range unimportant.
Yes.
It's canceled.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
So
it.
I don't.
It's fine.
I'm going to start off by saying this is in no way an intent to defend this, but we have to ask the question: could this be explained by total incompetence? Like,
Well,
I just
mean,
wonder.
it's the UCP, so I mean, we're going to say total incompetence.
I just wonder if somebody in the room did not was like, "Hey, I've got a great idea," and did not clock this at all. Because I
know, right? Well,
been in rooms where nobody
head.
would have clocked that terrible idea, right?
I had somebody make a comment, and I'm going to try to be respectful in paraphrasing the comment. But it was basically like, "Screw you, big city folk. In small towns, we do this all the time. No. It's different here.
Oh,
no shit.
No.
It's different there." But that's the problem. Like, I get that, there's probably not a big age range group in a smaller town, right? So you want to get people together that you think have similarities, but there's a big difference between 14 and 25. And maybe all the 21 and 25-year-olds will be mingling on this side of the gym, and the 14 and 15-year-olds will be mingling on the other side. But ew.
Do a teen dance, do an adult dance.
Exactly.
Don't do both.
Right?
Exactly. Why not have two events? Why not have two events? Or I was going to say 2 rooms. Don't have 2 rooms, 2 different days.
Yeah.
Entirely different days.
I genuinely believe that this sort of, like, every major event planner needs to have an elementary school teacher on staff just to stand up and say, no, that's not going to work.
No.
Because when we plan school dances, break them into age categories because that just makes sense. It makes the event not terrible.
But I find Sorry, no, go ahead, Stuart. Go ahead,
I respect
Stuart.
Go
ahead, Stuart.
No, I can't. No, nothing. My mic's broken.
You can go now, Stuart. I'm allowing you.
I respect the idea that it's a small town and there's a smaller pool of people to pull from, and they're trying to do something for the youth. And if you're 70, maybe everyone underneath, maybe it should have gone from 14 to 50. I don't know.
Ew.
But I respect the idea of that as being a part of where they went wrong. I get that. I understand that. Not respect it. I understand that. However, like, who it doesn't matter where you're from. Who is 20 to 25 going to an event like that and thinking, this is a rager, isn't it? This is pretty great. What about that one over there with the light up shoes?
Well, for all the reasons that officer put in his tweet. I go to the dark side of that because it's icky to me that 25-year-olds would even want to be in the vicinity where there's, like, social activity with 14-year-olds. But that it's put on for them specifically. Like, you're not bringing your baby sister and you're dropping her off at the dance and, you're just hanging out in the back corner. Like, it is specifically for you for 14 to 25. And like, this is the UCP.
As long as there have been young people, there have been, like, creeps who sniff around with even younger people, right? Like, like, when I used to teach in a high school, people who were older than high school age would be coming and picking them up for going out and doing whatever afterwards, right? Like, there's going to be creeps who look for younger people no matter where.
There's that whole
look.
plus or minus too, right? Like, if we're looking at that, there's a plus and minus too.
Yeah, but that, like, half your age plus 7, man, them's the rules.
Right.
Half your age plus.
Did you not know that rule?
To do the math on that.
I know it was rather quick.
That's like a known thing in Saskatchewan.
Explain.
No.
If you cut your age in, the rule of thumb is that half of your age plus people. 7 is a decent guideline for an appropriate relationship age gap.
Half your age plus
So, like,
7?
if you're 30, that makes sort of the younger cutoff 22. If you're 40, it makes the younger cutoff like 27. That doesn't necessarily. It's sort of like a rule
if you're
of
20?
thumb. I guess then it'd be 17.
Stop. 17. But that's not the plus or minus 2. But I guess, anyway, I don't want to get into age of consent and stuff like that. But
okay, I didn't say it's perfect. Rule of thumb, damn it.
And it's in for Saskatchewan. It stays within the block that is Saskatchewan.
We're pleased to announce
hard
a new
to spell,
youth dance.
easy to draw.
Podcast is broken. The podcast is broken. Youth dance, which will be half your age plus 7.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I saw it one day posted and then event canceled the next day after all the drama-rama. But then got that comment about it's different in a small town. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's different.
And even if it is, that doesn't make it right. right? If
No, it
that's
doesn't
the
make right.
norm in Lacombe, Ponoka, I don't know. I've never been there. That doesn't
this
make
is
it
a
okay.
No, I'm going to say it's not okay. But this is a fascinating thing with the whole UCP and now, like, with the changing of the sex education, and we don't want people learning about this, and we don't care about age-appropriate sex education. Nobody should learn about it. You don't want kids learning about sex ed, but you're going to throw them into a hall on a Friday night with 25-year-olds. Like,
if it's that way in a small town, maybe they shouldn't be doing youth dances. Maybe it should just be community events.
For everybody.
Community dance.
Yeah, have
for
the
everybody.
parents
Family
be in
dance.
the room.
Grandma, mom.
Yeah,
exactly.
family dance, right?
Everyone has a good time. It's all happy and it's all fun and whatever. That's good. That's great. As opposed to saying, let's corral all the 14-year-olds with 25-year-olds. 25! I was already engaged for the second time by I was 25.
Yeah, but you're in Ontario.
He's a
You
busy
guys
man.
do things different.
We live fast here in Ontario.
Fast and free in Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast and free. That's our license plate now. Fast and free. Because our license plate tags are free now. That's why. So.
Oh, good. Oh, really?
Yeah, but
They are.
dubiously so. The province was like, you might still get a ticket for another month or two. It's probably fine.
True. It's true. It's a ridiculous system, but we digress. We digress.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't think it was incompetence. I think if the best benefit of the doubt is that it's just someone who wasn't even thinking. However, that's a lot of not thinking.
And getting past a lot of people who should have gone, this doesn't seem right.
Well,
It seems weird.
I don't love the term indoctrination, but I find it weird that you're hosting this specific event under the UCP banner and you're bringing in youth, right? Like, I feel like there's a hidden agenda. I think they were actually trying to be very smart about it, but I don't think they anticipated so much backlash, which... Yeah.
It's so creepy.
I know. And then...
It is creepy.
So we got the creep factor. But then on the flip side of it, because there's another constituency office that's decided they're going to put on a town hall. They love halls.
Okay. Sure.
Called An Injection of Truth. Let
Thank
that
God those two
marinate.
events didn't coincide.
Put on,
Right?
put
Yeah,
on by the
exactly.
UCP.
Put on by the UCP. That's Calgary McLeod. No, McLeod? Lougheed. They had the event on Eventbrite to sell tickets until Eventbrite was like,
We're good.
To be able to facilitate this. And then ixnayed it. So then the UCP had to go on the defense and sell tickets directly themselves for this event. I don't know if political parties are allowed to do that. Like, it's not a political, it's not anything to do with the party. But you're selling tickets to, I'm going to say, sponsor the people that are attending this injection of truth.
And
Anyway,
the event's put on by the party, though.
Yeah. Calgary Lougheed.
Oh, my God.
3 guesses what it's about.
About media
Injection.
literacy. So not media literacy.
No, I think originally it was panned as talking to parents about mRNA vaccines and how it's killing children. And then they had to soften that a little bit. So it's 2024.
They
How
had
are we
to
still
soften
here?
it because it's not true.
Well, truth really isn't their marker for
Even though they put it in the
moving
title,
forward.
they have a dubious relationship with it.
Yes.
What I can't...
Well, maybe it's truth in advertising. Maybe it's injection of truth. No injections, thank you. Maybe it's like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it's like
an anti-injection. And they're saying, "Oh, we don't want this." Can you imagine?
I think it's also worth noting that it's especially wild that something like this is happening in the middle of a national measles concern where there's nowhere near enough vaccination out there, and they're running vax hesitant events, right? Allegedly, always allegedly.
Allegedly.
And so there are people that have been invited, and I think what the preamble says, guests can be changed at any given time, and it's not happening until June. But so there's some popular people.
Individuals.
Allegedly,
Well,
who were being very careful not to name
Right.
for alleged
Yeah.
reasons,
Hold-
allegedly.
yeah,
hold
allegedly.
designations. They hold designations.
Yeah, allegedly.
Being asked to attend, who may not be necessarily working in their designated field anymore,
Allegedly.
Always
Allegedly.
alleged.
but have a lot to say about things, allegedly.
No, I
So-
think we can acknowledge they have a lot to say about things.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening in my province.
Here's the thing that I cannot wrap my head around. Maybe one of you can make sense of this for me. Why are there some folks out there who are so bent on relitigating all of this stuff? Like, it feels like we've been through the COVID vaccine thing, and like most people are just saying we're good with it. And there's like the folks who are very angry of that have since moved on to the carbon tax largely because they just jump from thing to be angry about to thing to be angry about. Like, why are we still doing this?
I don't get it either. I think what's interesting is that I wrote in my newsletter thing last week about when I did the speaking. I don't think I mentioned this to you last week, but it doesn't matter. It's a fantastic story, and I tell it so well.
He weaves a tale, I tell you.
Talking to a couple of high school kids, and one of them said to me, "I've followed you forever." And I was like, "Oh, wow." So I'm expecting like, oh, did she follow me when she was like online when she was like, 8? And she's like, "Yeah, I followed you since like, I don't know, 2020." And I was like, "You know what, young lady?"
That's kind of forever
I didn't
for
say
her.
that out loud. It is forever, but it's also kind of like, it was like, that's kind of my attitude about these type of an event and this sort of sentiment and this sort of hanging on to it. It's like it's almost becomes like it's all it was an excuse to get angry. That's it, and I'm not sure. And it's like, I don't know. It's just so silly. It's
I
like,
think-
guys, we're so past it now.
There are people who are still looking for that vindication, though, that you were right. Because I don't understand why this is a thing in 2024, especially in light of the things that we're dealing with in Ontario. You know, that poor child that passed away.
Awful.
Like, and I mean, I think the last 4 years it has a lot to blame for the things that are happening now, right? That whole, and I hate really using the anti-vax thing, but people who are vax hesitant, people who are not willing to do the things that we all had done when we were children that, prevented us from getting things like polio, puts a child in that situation. And then conversely, you're having in a province that, our health minister and our premier wouldn't even say the COVID word when they were talking about, flu vaccines and all that kind of stuff. But you're putting this on. Why? Like, I think we're at a stage where if you want to get the COVID vaccine, if you want to get your boosters, you get your boosters. If you don't, you don't. So but this is what we're trapped in. We've got, one constituency office having a hoedown from the 1800s with mixed ages, and then you've got another constituency office that is living in 2021.
So do you think a portion of it is that there's just sort of that, I'm trying to find a better word than grifter, but grifter class of sort of folks out there, and I'm not going to point to anybody specific, but that's sort of
In general.
Yeah.
there's a whole sort of group of them online who are just making their whole online identity grievance, be it about COVID or be it about carbon taxes or be it about whatever. They're making their whole identity grievance and saying, we need your money to keep up this fight. And they are just keeping the grift alive, there's going to be people who are going to buy every anti-COVID book, every anti-COVID speaking tour, every anti-COVID whatever. So they're just keeping the grift running.
Well,
Part of it's, oh God.
What
You're at 6 minutes, Lisa.
disappointment.
No, it's okay.
God. Oh,
I'm going to put my hand up. Please, Lisa, go ahead.
I was going to say, before I was so rudely
Because I'm the guy who gets the
interrupted.
comments. I'm the guy who receives the comments.
Help me. Excuse me, now I have a frog in my throat. The tickets aren't cheap for this thing either. Like, the tickets to go to the one event are fine, but then they have a politics and popcorn event after. And so if
That's
you want
similar to what you went to.
Right?
Isn't it in Ottawa, politics and popcorn.
At an undisclosed location that just happens to have movie theater popcorn from a
If
specific.
they have medals as well, they got your event beat.
right? Holy shit.
Yeah.
But that's not cheap. So like, where's this money going? Because wherever this is happening, I can't imagine it's going to cost them that much to rent. So the money that's coming in, I'm going to say it's going to be going to whomever may show up to speak on
Yeah.
their truth.
Well, and this stuff is a profitable
Wow, which is
venture,
wrong,
man.
man.
Like the people who show up to this stuff, it's concentrated, but they show up to everything that happens. Like they're just dedicated to the cause, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's interesting to me is like I've been to Alberta numerous times and I love it. I enjoy it. I've been to Edmonton. I've been to Calgary. I've been to, all the places like Banff.
He
and all that
says
kind
it
of
with
stuff.
like 1,000-yard stare in his eyes. Like, I love it. I had a good time there.
No, it's true. It's true. Apart from, again, leaving my wife on the floor of a pub in Calgary, it's been a good time.
Who
And-
among us hasn't, though, really?
Who among us hasn't left their wife in a crumpled heap in the pub, in an Irish pub?
Give it time.
Anyway, but what I can't understand is that when I'm there, I don't get that vibe. Like I don't get that vibe whatsoever. Is it incredibly different as soon as you drive like an hour out of Edmonton? Is it just suddenly gone crazy, or is it just a different world? I don't understand it. Who's going to show up to this thing? Is what I'm asking. Like, is there going to be anybody that shows up to this thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's going to be people. It's the cult crew, right? Like they all like caravan to wherever these things are happening. But I don't want to paint my province negatively. I don't have to. It's just happening. But I think, there's an outlier that will come in for these kinds of things. There are people obviously within the major cities that feel the same way. But generally speaking, like for the majority of us walking around Edmonton or walking around Calgary, like we don't have to deal with like people yelling and screaming, take your mask off. Like that. I've never had that. Of course, I'm not approachable, but I've never had somebody tell me that. I've got that. I'll cut a bitch eyes.
Hey,
when
take
I'm-
your leave her alone. Leave her alone.
She's got resting friendly face.
Yeah, exactly. But I think for the most part, like I don't feel that in Edmonton, at least, right? But certainly, I think the smaller areas, it's a thing.
So, Stuart, have you spent any time sort of outside of the cities, or did you just go to Calgary and Edmonton?
No, largely just Calgary and Edmonton, and then of course like driving to Banff.
So
that's about it.
Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd imagine it's pretty similar in Alberta. That like in Saskatchewan, when you're driving around in like rural highways and stuff, there'll be people who just like parked a grain truck by the highway with a bunch of big F Trudeau signs on it, or like
Wow.
You can't drive more than probably 50 kilometers in Saskatchewan without passing a billboard about pro-life stuff or like, things like that. Like there are political messages on hay bales, on grain trucks, on silos, on all manner of stuff. And it's really concentrated in rural areas, and it's really... It's the most extreme sort of parts of, the PPC sort of stuff in a lot of cases. And it's a sort of thing that feeds itself in these rural communities. They just sort of sit around Coffee Row and talk about Trudeau, and
Right.
it's a whole thing, man.
I went out to a Pride event in Westlock, which is like an hour northwest of Edmonton. And this is going to sound bad, but like leaving Edmonton and then getting on the highway and going out to Westlock, like you feel it. There's a difference. And not everybody in Westlock, they're lovely, but the ones that feel it, they put it on display. Like you can drive anywhere in Alberta. Like there is no fuck Danielle Smith trailer. There is, you know what I mean? There is a fuck you Jennifer Johnson, but there is no fuck Danielle Smith.
Merch link in the
Right,
comments.
no merch link in bio. No. But that's the difference. It becomes their identity of, I think, the hate and the wanting to get that vindication and validation that they're right on their point. So I think these kinds of tours, I mean, we see certain people tweeting things who have played sports.
Oh God.
And they continue. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is who they are. This is who they are, I think, at this point. Unfortunately.
I mean, it's interesting because outside of Stratford, where I am here in Ontario, there used to be a billboard that was a pro-life. That's the kindest way of putting it. Billboard that it was a bit over the top. It was like time of execution Monday at 3 p.m. by mother's orders, and it was like whoa, calm down, dial it back a bit. And then the other side of the train tracks was a billboard facing the other, which is still there, which is one of my favorites, which says, "Don't bitch about the farmer with your mouth full." And I was like, all right, okay. I mean, I wasn't.
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
But all right. But I mean, so I think there's like there's the, if I'm describing it correctly, but urban population, like the densely populated areas like Calgary, Edmonton, and then Saskatchewan, Regina, and Saskatoon. That type of thing.
So densely populated.
So densely populated. I mean, comparative.
Hemmed in by the prairies. We have nowhere to build but up.
Or in Toronto, where there's like 3 Saskatchewans.
And half in Alberta.
And half in Alberta, exactly. But I mean, it's like that. I don't know if it's a case of there's no time for that kind of, like it's not beneficial to maybe that's it. It's not beneficial to buy into this like injection of truth and anti-vax and F Trudeau and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's like in those areas. I'm not saying those people, there aren't people there that think all those things. But I'm saying that it's just not, it's impractical to park your truck somewhere on the Gardiner Expressway because you would just get beaten up.
But maybe like in Northern Ontario, like maybe it's like a jurisdictional thing, right? Closer to the urban centers, maybe not so much. Because I mean, like for Edmonton, if you're driving south, you have to at least pass Leduc, which is like a 20-minute, and then you get into like the, Highway 1 and that's where you see the stuff. But maybe it happens everywhere. I don't know. I mean, I get it in Saskatchewan. We're like kissing cousins, literally. Want to come to a dance?
Come to a dance? My grandma's got a Batmobile.
Half your age plus 7.
You're so stuck on the freaking
Every time you say something,
Yes.
like we latch onto it because it's just so funny. But
right.
I don't know if those things happen in BC. We really should ask somebody that we know in BC. I think in Manitoba they have that as well. I know. It's so far. Yeah. They're all high anyway in BC.
Exactly.
They're all just enjoying their living in a place that doesn't freeze over every year.
Right.
I know. In the same way that there are people stuck on the anti-vax stance, there's people in BC who are just stuck on there's cherry blossoms in January. There's cherry blossoms in January. Yeah. Go to hell.
At the same time, you can just ask them how long has it been raining for?
Right.
That's
they
true.
shut
Are
up
you
real
growing
quick.
moss yet? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not bitter.
If you're listening in BC, we love you.
When did it stop
They're not
raining?
listening.
Subscribe.
They're not listening in BC. Exactly. They don't have F Trudeau flags. Do they have who? That's the flag.
They don't know
there.
who
Well, the thing is, though, like
Exactly.
I do have a theory about why the farms have all wound up with the F Trudeau flags and everything, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but like a lot of what's happened in the last 10 years or so has made it harder to be a farmer, right? Like food transport costs have gone up, fuel costs have gone up. Like you don't pay carbon tax on farm fuel, I don't believe. So I don't think that directly affects it. But even like when it comes to fuel for their vehicles and stuff, it adds up quick. And it just sort of coalesced this sort of social group around F Trudeau, honestly, and just hating one specific person who it became pretty easy to pin the real issues they face on.
So it's just a target.
Yeah, it's
more
just
than
an
anything. It's just
easy
something
effigy to point it all at.
Yes, effigy. That's the right word. Exactly. Yeah, I don't get it.
But prior to Trudeau, like, and I love farmers. I have nothing against farmers. Farmers are great. We need farmers.
Well, don't bitch about the farmer with your mouth full.
Good thing my mouth is empty. However, we see it on like every year. I remember being a kid growing up, and depending on whether we had too much rain or we had too much sun, like your industry is based on the weather, right? And so, and whether they were getting help from the feds at that point in time. So whether it was a conservative government I think it's just easier now, or maybe we notice it more because of everything with the whole F. Trudeau moniker. They have like these little pensions within the community. So it's, the farmers don't like them and the oil workers don't like them. And so they all kind of get together. And maybe it's just because of this newfound, we're going to make flags and we're going to fly things on the side of our farm fields. But I think farmers have always had a difficult time.
I think there's also maybe an element of it's nice to feel like you're a part of something. It's nice to go to rallies and be with like-minded people, and even if it's not necessarily a great idea.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to get together with some 14-year-olds?
Oh, and you need to bleep that out. We're going to be canceled. It'll be the Lisa and Steve show.
I was say not
Being
us.
sarcastic. Oh, God, please, Owen, put the sarcastic filter on there. I'm going to get us to move on if we can. I want to talk
Probably
about
for the
something
best.
else. Yeah, it's probably for the best. It's just a whole lot of. It's just going to be like 30 minutes of us going,
Alberta.
I want to talk about what happened in the House of Commons this past week with the Minister of Finance, Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, have an exchange with Pierre Poilievre, leader of the opposition, of course. And I'm just trying to find the exact words here. Poilievre and Freeland were having a back and forth. Poilievre said, today we have a motion that we voted in the House to permanently ban hard drugs. Will the government vote for that motion, or will it admit that it plans to legalize drugs again after the next election? Deputy Prime Minister Freeland stood up and said, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is wearing more makeup than I am today. Now, I think it's wonderful. And I watched the clip and I thought to myself, no, that's just not, it was just dumb. It was like, because the joke is, look, he's like a woman. And it's like, that's not a punchline. You can't look, you look like a woman. It's a punchline.
Did you see her find the camera as she was saying it too?
It was very awkward. Yes, she searched for the lens. She found the lens, which is impressive because they're tiny cameras. So she's looking around and she found the lens and she's give a little wink and a nod. Jim from The Office style. And or Michael. But what was fascinating to me is that I tweeted out like, this is like level 100 or something. It just like wasn't something I want the government to waste time doing. This is dumb. It's not even borderline. It's just plain old misogynistic sounding joke. It's not really. It's just dumb. It's like saying Justine Trudeau or something. It's like, well, that's not funny. That's just stupid. But however, the fascinating part is, I think it worked. I think it totally worked.
How so?
I think his base, Poilievre's base, haven't really addressed the remarks. They've come out and attacked Freeland, but I think they're like, oh, he does kind of look like a girl. You could get him to go to a youth
Come
dance.
to our dance.
But like, I think this is also like just like a thing that people do on all sides is they like very intentionally overlook very obviously goofy things that their politician is doing.
Sure.
Like how, supporters of a certain presidential candidate in the States who shall not be named will deny that he's doing anything to, alter his appearance in any way, even though it's incredibly obvious he does, right? Like, it's the same thing here. They'll just be like, no, it's nothing. And so once it becomes too hard to ignore, I don't know what you do.
But like, I had to listen to it because I saw it when I was scrolling and I was like, oh, what's this? I'm going to go and look at it. And I thought I had missed it because I didn't know what precipitated the comment. Like, I thought there had maybe been like a back and forth.
No,
and
it was just
like
another ridiculous QP question.
Why do you get up? I don't understand why you get up. And I don't dislike Chrystia. She's not my idea of comic genius, right? So maybe don't try to make jokes. But I don't know why you get up and that's your go-to on something that has nothing to do with anything. Why?
Yeah. I genuinely feel like she had it planned in advance. She had told some aide, like, hey, you know what I'm going to say?
This will be good.
It's going to get him
George Hamilton today? You seen George Hamilton over there today?
Just staying right with the
Liberace.
times.
You seen Liberace across the aisle? But I mean, she could have. I think you're right, Steve. I think that there's a reason. There's good reason to point out these things that are just like, especially when you're playing the kind of game that's being played right now with the conservatives and liberals. But I think it could have been wrapped better. It could have been a barb on an actual point.
I don't even necessarily think there's good reason to point these things out. Like, even if he is wearing makeup, I don't think it's tremendously relevant.
Like, who cares?
Well, except that it worked. But it worked.
You're right, but I hate that it does, and I hate that the cheap shots are what wins. And so, like, while I acknowledge that it might have worked, I genuinely think the blowback cost is just as bad. Like, I think Freeland comes out of it looking just as bad.
I don't know, because I posted the thing about the Earth Level 100 with the story about what she'd said about the makeup, and then I'd followed that up with even more distressing. I think it worked because all the comments I was receiving from people who are otherwise reasonable people and very not conservative voters were saying, well, it's true and blah, blah, blah. And they were all over it. They were like, yeah, it's totally accurate. And I think it was a great thing to say and blah, blah, blah. And someone had to point it out. And there's a point where it's like, there's a politeness that would not be returned from the conservative side. I don't like the fact that the liberals apparently have to play the same game, but I think they might have to.
I'm gonna disagree just because, like, if you already hate Poilievre, it's very easy to hate him more. It's very easy to hear something that you don't like, or that somebody's taking as a shot and being like, "Yeah, he does suck," right?
But wearing makeup,
I'm tired of it. This is what I mean.
Who cares?
I'm just tired of the cheap shots, and I wish we collectively move past it. Like, it's just tiresome.
there were so many other things. Like, look, if you wanna like jab at Pierre, there's so many other things that you could say. So, like, in response to his like hard drugs, blah blah blah, she could have gotten up and said something like, "Well, while our government is working on this, that, and the other, we have the leader of the opposition, Narcissus." Like, you could have put it in a way
if you want to make fun of him, he gives you a lot to work with.
Yeah.
You don't need cheap shots.
Yeah, I don't like
I agree.
that. Although I did make fun of his like edited out pictures and his fake abs, because that was just obviously ridiculous and obviously fake. But whatever, if he wants to wear makeup and smooth out his tone, whatever.
But I mean, you're not getting paid $190,000 a year by my tax money, so you're allowed to do that. You know what I mean? That idea of you're allowed to draw comments like that. But I feel like it feels like question period in general is a nightmare. And it's, if you ever want to be disheartened by the democratic process and Canada and Canadian government, just watch that. And you're like, what a stupid waste of time this is. Nothing's getting done. But I mean, you're right. Steve's right as well, saying, but there's lots of reasons to make fun of him. He gives you lots of material to work with, which is true. I thought it looked really poorly, but then again, like I said, I think it worked. I think even though I'm thinking, oh, that's distasteful, it's not as cool as I want Chrystia Freeland to be, because I find her quite cool. And she's done a tremendous amount of stuff in her life, and she's a bit of a badass. And I thought, oh, this is just coming across like she's trying to be a mean girl in school. And it's like, well, that's just a stupid joke. And yes, he was wearing a tremendous amount of makeup, and his hair was especially slicked that day. But I don't know.
Who cares, though? I was surprised there wasn't as much fallout from that comment. Like, I expected all sides to be like, because I as a woman, I find it offensive when we are trying to be inclusive, and like, you know what I mean? Like, were we going too woke? Like, I didn't want to be like, oh my God, like, you've now alienated groups of people because you're making fun of a man wearing makeup. But we think we should be sensitive about that kind of stuff. Like, honestly, that there's so many other, the fact that he was like doing whatever he was doing in a white trailer, let's make fun of that all damn day. But who cares if he's wearing a little concealer or contour? Like, whatever.
Well, again, I mean, the joke was he looks like a girl.
Yeah.
That was the joke. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if that's a joke, really. It's not even really about being sensitive. It's just about being, it's not that funny.
Bro.
Well, I don't even know if he looks like a girl. I think it's like he's a man doing girly things.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I read it, right? And And again, out of nowhere. So I don't know why that. It's like you said.
It was out of nowhere.
Because she had it in the chamber. I bet you it was on her notes.
Like, I was going to say, like, she just had to, she's like, I got to say it today. I got to say it today.
Tapping her notepad the whole time.
Yeah. And
she like saw it on a Reddit message
board
board and she was like, oh, this one's so good.
Somebody asked me a question. I need to say it. But then Pierre made the snarky comment about jug meat, about like, the leader of the NDP is easy to ignore or something like that. Like, it's just getting mean.
Yeah.
Can we focus on real issues and stop trying to one up each other?
Well, but they're just soundbite
like
farming,
we do here.
right? Like they're just trying to get their clips for Twitter and social media and all that stuff. And it's so disingenuous. It's why they give their big, long, speechy questions, and then the politician gets up and instead of actually addressing the question, lists 6 unrelated programs. So I've started doing this with my wife. She'll like ask me to take out the trash and I'll be like, we've taken out the trash multiple times over the last several weeks. We have a long-term plan to improve trash removal. We have some trash reduction targets that we've set. And I think you'll be very pleased to see what we have in motion. And just carry on with my day.
We're looking at partnering with other levels of government to ensure that the trash is removed in a timely manner.
I'm just going to start giving political non-answers to ordinary household requests. It's my new go-to.
Yeah. There's so many things that Poilievre says that he tries to pin on the federal government, the federal Liberals, that are evidently provincial.
Yeah,
matters.
Because he doesn't want to talk about the Conservatives doing it at provincial level.
Exactly.
Until it's pointed out that it's provincial matters.
Why isn't it pointed? But those are the jokes. Like with the drugs and hard drugs and things. It's like it could have easily been diverted into a conversation about BC's government and their decision to do that, and then posing the question back to Poilievre, saying, "Are you suggesting the federal government should take more action and more involvement in provincial governmental affairs?" The stuff that he hates, that he doesn't really want to do, why not just turn it right back on him?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you're wearing more makeup than I am.
Bazinga.
Which you're not known for your done-uppedness, Chrystia.
I know, she looks great. She's fine. There's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah, exactly. It's I'm wondering if all the people who listen to this who are like, 3 leftists in a room together, or if they're going to go, oh my God, they don't like Chrystia Freeland, or they don't like what she did. I wonder what the response is going to be.
Well, this is what concerns me a little bit. This is what concerns. I was talking to someone last night about, they were saying that they enjoyed my video content on social media, which was lovely. And they said, you seem pretty, like you'll poke at the government, but you seem pretty even-handed. And I said, I always get told I don't make fun of the federal government as much, like the Liberals as much. And invariably the comment is always like, well, you didn't make any, what about his blackface? And it's like, dude, I did like 3 videos on that. That was like 5 years ago. Like, if he does something else on that same level, I will make fun of it. Yeah. Don't worry. Absolutely. Yeah. But the thing that concerns me is that where it's such a binary point, it feels like anyway, and maybe it has felt like this previously, and I've just been unaware of it, but it feels like we're at such a binary point where it's like if we choose one path, things might not be awesome, but they'll be okay, and people in general will be okay. If we choose the other path, some people are not going to be okay. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be like LGBTQ plus community, all that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know if I'm cool with those people getting thrown to the wayside just because we want to change. I don't think that's what scares me about that. So whenever if I make fun of the federal government, or even saying this about Chrystia Freeland, I was worried. It's like, well, no. I'm still not voting for those bozos. I'm still sticking with who we got because they're the best choice we've got so far. It's distressing a little bit.
Do you think, because I feel that we are reasonable people, and so we can poke fun or critique even the people that we would vote for, the parties that we would vote for, because we are rational thinking, and what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Whereas the alt-wrong will defend, even if it's wrong, because it has to be right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't want the perception of like that a liberal or an NDP could do anything right. Mm-hmm. So we will defend.
And that's what scares me, is like the idea that your own team is above criticism or can't be criticized. It's like, no, I'm going to criticize the people I agree with typically and hold them to what they say, what they do. Mm-hmm. And like, that's just how you do it, right? Like, that's how you keep politicians honest.
Yeah.
Well, accountable, right? There's an accountability there that we aim for.
But do you think that people have the time or the capacity or bandwidth to actually split those kind of thought processes, that nuance, where you're able to, the public at large is able to look at the government and go, listen, they've got lots of problems, and then back out even further, widen the focus a bit and go, but they're still our best option. I don't know if people are necessarily, I think they're just like, oh, they've got lots of problems, then we can't vote for them, I guess. Well, because I think you had said before, people vote governments out in Canada. They don't vote governments in. So that's my concern, is that I'm not sure people are able – I think you're right, and I think it's absolutely crucial for people to be able to criticize their government because, I want things to work. That's different from looking at who's available to govern and going, well, I'm still sticking with these guys. These guys they've goofed up, they've done stupid stuff, but they're still our best bet. And I'm not sure people have the time or capacity or bandwidth to be able to do that en masse in general, I'm thinking.
It comes second nature to me. So I have a really hard time. And I should realize I have a really hard time not understanding how people can do that. Like I can criticize something because I want it to be better, right? So I can criticize Christians, say, that probably don't do that next time, right? Like be better. But to not be able to look at where there's fault and admit where there's fault because you think somehow that's going to lessen or weaken the argument for a new government. I have rarely ever seen any pro-Poilievre people, even if he's done something ridiculous, acknowledge the ridiculousness. Like, it's okay. Like, he's not a robot. He's not perfect. The leader is going to, and I think that's the difference, is that, like, we can look at something and go, yeah, it's not right. Don't do that. Be better.
Do you think it goes back to the F. Trudeau thing from earlier? Like the feels good to be a part of something and people are scared of maybe, disrupting that. Like if somebody's like a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, it's hard for them to criticize Trudeau because their identity gets very wrapped up in being a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. In the same thing.
TrueAnon thing, right? That idea.
But the same with the conservative supporters who are, going to run cover for Poilievre no matter what he does, just because that's their team. That's the team they play for, right? And I guess the real question we have to ask is, how do we break people out of those mentalities? How do people, like, what got you out of that mentality? Or were you always, Lisa, were you always able to instantly shoot down any internal biases? You were like 6 years old and you're like, no, I'm just going to play it down the middle.
No, of course not. I have bias. I know I have bias. But if you ask me, like if I take a look at Alberta, of course I criticize the UCP because they're horrible people. But if you ask me, some good or bad things that the NDP have done, I can tell you the good and the bad things that the NDP have done. And it's not because I don't love the NDP. It's because I want the NDP to be better. And that's the difference, right? Like I can acknowledge where there are errors made, because that's the only way that we grow, right? And I feel like that group can't acknowledge anything because if they do, it may shatter their hope or their dream that this is going to save them. I think there's this whole like savior complex of we have to get rid of one party because we need to get this one in because this is going to save everything and make it better. And if they start to really look at things and start to question in their mind, well, is it going to make it better? How is this going to work? If he's saying this, how, like they're not doing the math or putting the pieces together, right? Because they don't know that they can, because I don't know that they want to. They have to believe what they believe, or else what do they have to believe? Deep.
Well, you've dominated this whole conversation today, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm exhausted.
I think that was a lovely point to finish on. Actually, that was good. That was good. That was really good. Good
Thanks,
conversation. Well
we
done.
finally had
everybody.
a Lisa forward episode. We can stop getting comments that say needs more Lisa.
If we lose followers, I'm done.
I swear to God, if our numbers go down,
Fired.
we're gonna move her mic away from her mouth again.
Just mute her. Just mute her every once in a while.
So thank you so much for listening and or watching. We're going to finish off as we normally do with our improvised theme song. What are our instruments this week, folks?
I have a Tic Tac box. A Tic Tac box.
TikTok
I
box.
know, right?
Tic Tac box.
With 4 Tic Tacs left, so
I
we're gonna try
regrettably
that.
came unprepared, so I'm going to go back to the
Oh,
El
God.
Clasico.
Fucking Batmobile.
We're going back to the Batmobile.
That's literally the fucking Batmobile.
Hang on. Let's see if I can get this thing to. Hold on.
the grandma fucking Batmobile.
Oh, God. Just as you remember it?
Perfection.
For those of you who are just listening, I think that Steve, I was going to say
Ejected?
terrible word. Yeah, ejected. That's a better word. Shot forth some sort of missile.
Indeed.
And
Issue.
Anyway,
It's
let's
not a,
just get
it's
on.
not a euphemism. It's fine.
God, I hope there's nobody that goes to that youth dance listening.
I think
actually, some
we
of
can
them can.
confidently assume nobody's going to that. Yes,
Word on the dirt road is that they're now putting it underground. Like it's still going to happen. It's just not going to be advertised.
That's so
Underground's
much
even
worse.
Well, not
It's
not in a
terrible.
bunker, but I mean, like it's going to be like.
No. I don't mean physically. That's even. Oh, that's horrible.
Well, you know, we're getting into mating season, so you know we gotta
Oh God,
get people.
no!
I am going to be banned from this
Just
show
shake your
soon.
Tic Tacs.
For those of you who are
rude.
listening and not watching, everyone is still fully clothed.
I'm telling your wife. All right.
All right, here we go. Let's just get on with it. Here we go. Podcast is broken. 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 That was good.
Holy hell.
Amazing.
I think
Yes,
we've
bravo.
really. I mean, I'm sure we've
evolved.
let a lot of people down, but at the same time, it's been fun.
You know what,
Thank you so
they
much
get
for
what they
watching,
pay
Andrew. Exactly.
Also,
Thank you so
for
much
those at
watching
home
and or
wondering,
listening.
it's the Batmobile from Batman Forever, the best original series Batman movie.
Nobody was wondering.
I was wondering.
Thank you for watching and or listening. Remember, you can remember you can subscribe at podcastisbroken.ca, and you'll get an email notification every time there's a new episode. And of course, if you're enjoying this on your favorite podcast platform, hit the follow, subscribe button, or whatever you do on those things. I don't know. Listen, there's a lot of different options out there for you. Choose wisely.
Listen to your heart.
Choose safely.
Choose
Hey, listen to your heart. Exactly. Listen to your heart. Oh no, we can't pay for that.
Oh, no,
All right.
no,
See ya.
Take care of yourselves, folks.